Damn it.
You're good. Sit down.
You got it?
Yeah, you're good.
It's been one of them days. So there we go. How about the volume now?
It has been one of them days.
Oh, it's been one of them days. So let me rephrase all that.
Done top water episode.
We're going to talk top water. To my left, I got Kevin Underwood right here with lipsticker fishing right there. And to my right, we got old Ryan Sheffield back in the house tonight. So hopefully, there it is. So hopefully we got it all out right. And like I said, it's been one of those days. We were going to talk kayak fishing tonight, and then it went to another guest with Jonathan. He had a little bit of an emergency, and so I got these two cats in here tonight. So all you guys in the comment section, hey, I know people will be joining as we go, but that's what the topic is tonight, topwater bass fishing. And you guys, hey, keep your comments and your questions coming for these guys as we get going. And just something a little bit different here on Tuesday nights. We normally do stuff different. We're going to talk bass tonight. So we're going to jump right into the conversation. And
let's talk about that mustache.
That mustache. This is what happens when you don't wear a guard, or you use your guard to try to trim up your goatee, and it pops off, and you end up having to shave a little bit. So I look good either way, right? That's what my mama says anyway. So, Kevin, we're going to start with you. We're going to jump right into it. What are you seeing on the water as far as topwater action right now? We'll get into specifics later, but what are you seeing?
So over the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of post-spawn fish. You can get a topwater bite. Sometimes you have to work really, really hard for it, and that's different from day to day. One day you can have a really good day, and then the next day can be just, man, can't get them to come up, can't get them to commit. They come up, they short strike. A lot of that. We're having to, use lures to match the activity levels of the fish. That's a big thing. If your fish are kind of lethargic, you can pick a topwater lure, say like we've used a pencil popper a lot. Just really work that pencil popper slow on them lethargic days. If it's a day to where they're really chasing, really chewing good, you could take something like a skimmer and just burning across the water, and they'll come up for it. But we haven't had very many of them days where they were really chasing good. We've had to work for them a lot, cover a lot of water.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and one more question. What do you quantify typically as top water? I know everybody wants to think, hey, fish are busting the top, but what is it to you?
Top water to me is a fish is going to hit a floating lure. And that means the lure floats on the surface, fish comes up and hits it.
That's top water.
That's a top water.
So the Seville bite kind of thing.
Seville bite to me is not necessarily a top water, because there's times when, and this is why I would separate those two things. There's times when a fish will come up and eat a walking bait. All right. And a lot of those days they'll come up and eat a Seville as well. The same days that they'll come up and they'll eat that walking bait. But there's also days to when they won't touch a walking bait, but they'll come up and they'll hit a Seville and never break the surface.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I would, separate those two things. I wouldn't really consider a Seville as being a topwater type of bite. It's close to the surface, but not
exactly what you're. All right, Ryan.
And a fluke, the same thing.
Same thing. Seville. Okay. All right, Ryan. What have you been seeing on the water as far as topwater activity? And I know you might, I don't know about Kevin, but I know you like the buzz baits early and stuff like that. Have you been seeing any of that?
I ain't caught fish on buzz bait
this year.
Nope.
Really?
No, I ain't. Well, I did catch some back in the spring, but
not recently.
Not recently. For me, it's like Kevin said. There's been high activity days and low activity days. And I mean, I try and get out there as much as I can.
Right.
You
got to work for.
I got to work for a living, but
yeah.
That's when I said earlier when we come in there, I've quantified it in the last 4 trips that I've had. We've had 2 good trips and 2 bad trips, but they've never been back to back. It's been a good trip, bad trip, good trip, bad trip.
Yeah.
So I
not
mean,
consistent.
No, it's not consistent, and I've kind of changed as an angler in the past 5 months. I'm a little bit different than I used to be.
Are you a scoper now?
Scoper.
Right. Is Ryan a scoper?
I'll never use that live scope. Buys one, puts it on the boat.
It's a tool that if you don't learn how to use it, and you don't start getting good with it, you're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I agree with you.
And it's, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And, you know, I mean, I've had tournaments in this past 4 months. I've been on Oconee. I've been on Hartwell, Chestatee, Lanier. Everything's been a little bit different. And everything, you know, it's kind of been, things have been in different stages everywhere we've been going. And things that you have been expecting to have happen have not happened whatsoever. And I think, talking about the topic that we're talking about tonight, I think that's going to be kind of right now. We're almost in June, and to me, June is the better topwater month.
Okay.
In terms of really offshore schooling activity, really being able to just like throw over brush piles, throw over long taper points, things like that, where you're going to get a little bit more consistent of a bite. I'm sure if Kevin made his post that he made like a week ago or whenever it was, last weekend, I guess is when it was, when you made it, about the sickness. And May is, and maybe some of y'all may remember me talked about that before in the previous couple of years, but there's always like a sickness period after the spawn. And they just, some days it's kind of like how we are, I guess, when we get sick, you know, where, you know, we get sick, we go to the doctor and the doctor says you have a sinus infection. Well, the first day or two, you feel like crap. But then that third day, you feel good. But then you overexert yourself on that third day. And then that fourth day, you're like, I feel like crap again. Yeah. And I think the fish do the exact same thing for the majority of the month of May. And and all the tournaments I've fished, it's been, I think that's kind of been pretty much the consensus.
Yeah.
As some people said, you know, they've done really good. And then they've fished the tournament and done bad to their standard of bad. And then they fished again the next week and done bad. And then go back out there, get pissed off, and go on Tuesday or Wednesday during the middle of the week and do good. You know, so that's just May for me. But the biggest thing, Kevin probably be able to say it better than I can, but the biggest thing that I've noticed right now compared to years past is it's a lot of the fishing, especially in North Georgia, you got to adapt a whole lot more. Going in with your game plan of what you think you're going to do for the past 2 months, you can have your game plan, but you're going to have to change throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Kevin's on the water Kevin's on the water way more than, you know, a lot of us are, because he's guide. But I'm be interested to hear what he has to say about that, whether or not he's had to maybe went in with a game plan and then had to tweak it. Where it's not exactly how you was anticipating it to happen that day. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that, but I want you also to talk about that sickness. Kind of, you made your post on your page and all that. For somebody that maybe they didn't see it, tell a little bit about what you're seeing as far as the physical condition of the fish.
So you have fish, they spawn out. You know, the big thing when the fish spawn, that's the only thing they're concerned with is having a successful spawn. So when they come out of that, they're not very healthy. They're very stressed out. A lot of them have rubbed the bottom, rubbed up against rocks. They rub up against each other, and they damage their slime coats. So you'll have fish with sores on them. You know, another thing I talked about, I think there's a lot of variables to how bad that can be. A lot of it could be, you know, a lot of our rainwater or runoff and stuff can have fertilizer and stuff in it like that.
A lot of that going on.
Yes. And, you know, now that we're more, you know, we've got a higher population of people living around the lakes. You've got more gardening going on. You've got more insecticide being sprayed. And I'm sure that all of those things combined together factor in on how much of that post-spawn funk we get from the fish, you know.
Right.
We like to go out there and we like to catch them. Of course, now with live scope and technology, You go out there, hey, this brush pile is absolutely loaded up with fish, and I can't get them to do anything, or I can't get them to bite. A lot of that, them being inactive and lethargic, has a lot to do with that, post spawn, them being sick.
Yeah.
Now we're coming into a time now to where you're going to see a lot of these fish start to recover, and you're going to see, I think, over the next couple of weeks going into June, I think you're really going to see, I don't know how long of a window we'll have with it. I don't know if it'll last all the way through June or not. That's something we're going to have to look at from day to day. But I think you're going to see that phenomenal topwater bite that Lanier is known for happen over these next couple of weeks going into June.
Yeah. Kind of like what you just, and like Ron Swinford, right to all you guys in the comment section. Hey, appreciate you guys joining us. And again, any question you got, definitely I want to say hey to J.R. Mitchell up there on Old Smith Mountain. They're drinking a Kentucky bourbon barrel ale and ready for some topwater juice, and all you other guys right there. But Ron's comment was the water quality plays a part in the post-spawn funk, but it seems to be a host of issues that change from year to year. And, I remember, last year, Ryan, you had talked a lot about, and Kevin, you might have noticed it, but last year's topwater bite didn't kick like in years past, correct? Am I off? It wasn't as good as, say, the year before when you had a phenomenal one. And this year, we don't know how it's shaping up yet, but there seems to be something that changes it every single year.
Yeah, I think I said it on here a couple times that I kind of equate it to the COVID year, and the summer of COVID. It was COVID, yeah, but the summer was really, really, really wet. It was a really, really wet year, and we just had rain every week, and not just like little pitter patter rain. We would have a day during the middle of the week where it would just pour.
Right.
I'm sure probably some of y'all remember relate back to that, but I think surface oxygen levels have got a lot to do with whether or not the fish will willingly come up and be aggressive to get something, because that, it's with forward facing sonar and stuff. Now we used to think that we'd throw topwater over brush, and we'll always say, oh, we're drawing them out of the brush pile, drawing them up out of the brush pile. Well, that's not really the case. The fish are living around the brush. They're suspended up high around the brush. And if those fish are up high, they'll eat a topwater. And you will draw some like straight up out of a brush pile, because I've already done it a couple times where you see it shoot up out of the brush pile.
Right.
But most of those topwater bites where it gets, a lot, multiple, like, oh, there's one, he missed it in there, and then another one finally gets it. That real fun topwater bite that goes on. Those fish are up high, and if I think I'm no biologist, but I think if you have a good quality level of oxygen in the beginning of the summer on the surface, I think it attributes to a good surface feeding activity. Yeah, and that's. Like I said,
that makes sense.
I'm no biologist. But.
Well, none of us are. That's why we do this show right there. Cam, we got our first question. Cam wants to know: do largemouth hit topwater as well as spotted bass? Or do y'all feel it fall? They're more lazy. So is the spot more aggressive to hit the topwater? Kevin, I'll let you jump on that first.
I think your spotted bass will travel a further distance to get a lure, no matter if it's a topwater, anything. I think a lot of times largemouth tend to be a little bit more lazy. So you'll have to get your lure a lot closer to them, whether it be a topwater or whichever lure.
Just by nature.
Largemouths are going to be a little lazier than a spot. And a lot of times I think too, if you have, let's say you got largemouths in the brush, you got spots in the brush, I think your opportunity to catch largemouth are sometimes overshadowed by the spots, who will chase that lure a lot further to get it, and they'll get it before the largemouth has a chance to.
Yeah, I got it. So Clint says spotted bass want to kill, largemouth want to eat. Yeah, what you got there back there, Blake?
I do have a question. You being a guide and everything on the lake, you know, they keep saying we've had some decent largemouth spawns. Are you starting to see that you're finding largemouth where the spots are, say like in the brush piles and out on the points? I mean, do you think the largemouth and decent sized largemouth are actually starting to show up better on the lake than say 5 years ago, like when I used to fish?
Yeah. So what kind of changes have you seen?
So I think the largemouth has always been there. I think a lot of your largemouths live offshore on the herring lakes. I think they get keyed in on herring, and they become nomadic.
Roamers.
I think.
Pelagic, or what is that word?
Pelagic.
That's
you know,
ocean fish.
There was that tournament last year that we won. You had asked me about the largemouths that we were holding up, and a lot of people, I think, thought we were up the river catching those largemouths, but we caught them largemouths out suspended over 90 foot of water hitting bait balls.
Where you wouldn't think they would be.
Where you would not think, hey, we're going to go out here and catch largemouths in the middle of the lake. But they were kind of acting a lot like stripers.
That's interesting.
Yes,
what about
they were acting like stripers.
Yeah, what about you? Because I heard you go, oh, yeah, when Blake asked that question, right?
Yeah, we've been this spring and then in the winter, especially, we caught more offshore largemouth. We had a pretty decent early spring. It was all main lake with this stuff. It was primarily main lake for me.
Yeah.
Largemouth and spots. I see Tracy Coker down there. We had a little pot tournament in February, I think is what it was, and him and Scott fished, and they had a 6 something, like 606, and I can't remember if Tracy or Scott. I think Scott caught it. It was on the main lake. It was up by a piece of timber, but it was on the main lake, and nowhere near where you would think February, they should be moving in on some of these main points, getting ready to move into the backs of these creeks. When we're talking largemouth, you know.
Right.
This fish was out on a log in the middle of the lakes, what he said.
Well, you wouldn't expect it.
And it was up there in like 2 foot of water where they should kind of be in February, but wasn't expecting it to be that far off the main lake.
Gotcha.
And I think that was in February. Tracy can probably correct me if I'm wrong, if it was February or not. But I believe that's what it was. But I didn't do no good. I mean, I know probably some of y'all probably that know me good and know me from the past couple of years. You know, a red crankbait bite in February, and we didn't do no good.
It didn't happen.
We didn't
for
do
a lot
no
of people.
good on it.
For a lot of people.
I banked on one. The very first club tournament of the year was in February, and I banked on it. And I went in blind. We've dumped the boat in the water, and it was water temperature on the Garmin was like 50. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, yeah. We're going to go way up Chestatee River, and we're going to go crank. And 8 hours later, we came back with 11:44.
Just didn't happen like you thought it would.
We're fishing places where I was like, we get a bite right here, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And we get a bite.
Sound like me and you, Blake.
I mean, it's just like, I don't know what the deal was. But, I mean, I think things are, like I said, I'll defer to Kevin on this because he's on the water more. I've noticed over the past couple of years because I try to largemouth fish more than most people do for the most part. But the population of them, I think, has gotten way better. And I think that's contributed to what Kevin was talking about, being that I think more and more of those fish are getting more and more nomadic because the largemouth on Lanier, they seem to be, they don't like hanging around other ones. But now and I know Kevin can probably, if he wants to tell a story that he told me like last year, you start to see them school up. Mm-hmm. You start to see them, getting like a Chickamauga type thing where there'll be 30, 40, 50 in the school and they're all largemouth, and I know like I said, Kevin's got a story about it because he told me about it, but I think the population is just getting better. I think what we're seeing to me is the class of fish for largemouth on Lanier. Now, we're having tournaments, and if you go fish for largemouth, you will catch largemouth.
Yeah,
I think you probably agree with me on that. If you go fish largemouth stuff, you will catch largemouth. Now, I mean, you got to put the puzzle together to catch 5 big ones,
Right.
but you'll go catch 15-inch largemouth almost at will in a spring, but I mean, and that to me says that's a population of the largemouth is just getting really good.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
So one thing about the largemouths, I ain't never caught them like you catch spots. You can catch spots out there spawning on like offshore stuff. I've never really caught largemouths on beds on Lanier on anything that was offshore. It's always somewhere in a pocket, somewhere in a cove, protected type places. So, in the spring, and you seen it this year too. I mean, was it about a month and a half ago? You go back into a pocket and there's just spawning largemouths laying everywhere. I know I did a trip with some guys. We went back in one of the pockets behind Port Royale, and there was 2 docks back there, and this year we kind of had the yo-yo heat waves coming in. It would warm up. You would have some fish that would move into the pockets. Then it would taper off and get cold. So they would kind of hold on them staging areas in the backs of these pockets. And then you had a couple of waves of that. So we went into the back of this pocket, and there was between 2 docks, just what we could see with our eyes, not running live scope. I don't like to use live scope when I get back into those shallow water areas around the docks. I just kind of go in and fish those staging areas. But just with our eyes, what we could see around the docks, we probably could have counted 30 to 40 largemouths between 2 docks that, was in an area probably 40 foot between the 2 docks.
Just stacked in there.
They were just stacked up in there. There were so many of them in there. It was ridiculous. And I'm sure that's not the only pocket that was like that. So I do think that, largemouth population, has improved. There's, and to kind of dabble on that, the offshore largemouths and then the resident largemouths live back in the creeks. You're talking about 2 different largemouths. So you're back in the creek largemouth, you're up the river largemouth. He's a long, skinny guy. Then you've got these offshore largemouths. They're a lot heavier, but they're a lot shorter.
Yeah.
They're just like you
Footballs.
got 2 different types of largemouths in the lake.
Is it a different strain, or is it what they're eating?
Same strain, but you got the herring eating largemouth,
Different
and then
lifestyle.
you've got the largemouths that live on the docks and live back in the creeks. And really same thing with the spots too. If you go up the lake and you go spot fishing, you're going to catch a 22-inch spot that's 3 pounds.
Yeah.
You go down the lake, you're going to catch a 19-inch spot, and he's going to be 4.5 pounds.
I
You're
get
going
it.
to catch, the weight's different on them.
Yeah.
The build is different.
The lifestyle. It's like a river fish compared to lake fish. Limo up there, I think we scanned up it, but I remember his question. He wanted to know, he kind of made a little comment about how the topwater wasn't as good as last year. But he wanted to know, does the water level affect the topwater bite? Like, Lanier got drawn down a little bit because they was working on the dam, whatever it was this year. And then you got lakes like Allatoona and, Notley and all those where they draw them down on purpose. How does water level affect the topwater bite that you've seen?
I've always thought that whenever the water comes up, the fish come up. So, and that could go for topwater or anything. That could go from, let's just say water gets overfull pool. You got water in the bushes and the trees. Fish are going to be up there in that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've always, as a starting point for me, if that water level is high, I'm always going to check, around the edges and close to the surface. I think when the water level drops, it kind of pulls the fish off, puts them out deeper, puts them out on deeper structure, deeper cover.
Yeah, makes sense. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, that's like having your recliner in the living room and it's got water on it. And then as the water keeps disappearing from your recliner, you got to make a choice. Are you going to keep sitting in that recliner or are you going to leave?
That's something I ain't never heard it
and
called.
they leave.
Right.
Or you lazy boy, however you want to
Whatever.
Plays water in my recliner. I'm getting tired.
That's what I was sitting there thinking.
Well, for a fish, his recliner,
I know what you're saying.
That's what he's up there.
He's
that's where he's up there
comfortable up
hanging
there.
out.
He's up there comfortable.
But I think that's part of it. I think the other piece of the puzzle though has to do with bait. If the bait won't stay if the water keeps. Bait's trying to stay alive, and they're not trying to willingly get eat.
I agree.
So I mean, if they ain't got no place to hide, then they're going to leave, and they're going to go out there and school up together, and they're going to be on those big bait balls, in the middle of the creeks. And I know any of y'all fish any of the lakes, Altoona, Lanier, it don't make a damn. We've all seen that thing in the evenings when we go fishing, maybe after work, and there's big old balls of bait in the middle of these creeks right before sun goes down.
That's right.
And you're like, man, why ain't they on fish out here? Well, that bait was up there on the bank, and then that bait left the bank and went out there and sit in the middle of the pocket, and they schooled up together. And the fish still they don't really follow them. They just kind of wait for nightfall, and they just kind of chill out. And then when nightfall comes, the bait goes right back to where it was.
That's right.
It's just the bait fish looking for oxygen, and that first level of that cool off in the evening, they go looking for that cooler surface water when it first starts going down
once the sun gets down.
But I mean, I've always tried to stay away from if the water's coming down, I try to stay away. Perfect example for this was last year. We didn't do any good on horny toad. And at all them places where the bream were spawning later in the summer and the docks and stuff that those fish hang around that we'd skip underneath, that they didn't have no water underneath them. They didn't have enough water underneath them.
Yeah. It takes a little bit.
And it takes a little bit of water to get up underneath there. But I mean, it's just always been my train of thought.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but
that's what you've experienced with your eyes.
That's what I've experienced, yeah.
And that's sometimes I tell everybody, like, what you've seen is perfect. So there was a couple of comments, and I wanted to kind of delve on these. I know Michael Temples mentioned hickory log, which is, of course, an electric reservoir, and it's primarily 99.9% largemouth, and occasionally somebody will catch a spot, but they're not in there. And then Ron Swinford mentioned Murray, which we all watched the Elites the other day. Both of those lakes are largemouth roaming. If anybody watched the Elites, it was crazy. It looked like Lake Lanier when them largemouth were coming up, but they were chasing bait, like what you would say. And it was like a guy could be scoping or do whatever, but they all had that rod right there ready. And so kind of going, piggybacking on this with the largemouth, and you saying that there's two different types, pretty much. I agree with that. But a lot of the lakes, like Murray, you see those largemouth out there busting schools, and you're starting to see a little bit more on Lanier where they're out there where you normally would see the scopers out there looking for spots. So that's kind of like a natural development that we're getting on the lake.
I think it's herring.
And that's herring, 100%.
I think herring has everything to do with that.
Makes sense. Is that what they were chasing on Murray?
Yeah.
Murray's got – they got alewives or bluebacks?
They got bluebacks.
They got bluebacks. Okay, so that makes sense. First of all, James Ramsey, these shows are great. The best fishing podcasts I've listened to for real information, even in the comments. The comment section makes it. I tell you what, the guests in the comment section, and that's what it's all about. Danny Engel, Carter's doesn't seem to have a topwater bite like Lanier or tuna. What's your opinion on that? And I will say this from guys coming in the store and talking, there is never any discussion about topwater on Carter's. Not that it don't happen, but compared to all the lakes. Now, Carter's has more alewife than it does blueback. Do you think, Ryan, that might be because of the bait type?
Yeah.
Alewives stay a little bit deeper, don't they?
Alewives don't really come to the surface till night, really. But there's a population of bluebacks in Carter's too.
Yeah, they have bluebacks.
So
you think because it's such a deep lake?
I mean, the first time I ever fished Carter's was with you.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we didn't get the fish much.
That was the first time I ever hit. But I will say this. That's funny you say that. I think people was messaging me all week. Put that damn horny toad down. You ain't gonna catch shit on that thing.
That's what they said.
And the first fish caught was up there underneath a tree.
3 foot of water, maybe.
And like 3 foot of water. And then we caught another one. And
it was a spot. It wasn't a largemouth. It was a spot and a decent one.
Yeah, it was about 3-pounder. But I think top water gets generalized into this little thing that the blueback herring make top water fishing better.
Mm-hmm.
And lakes that don't have top water, and lakes that don't have blueback herring, you're not really going to get that all day potential, all day top water action that you can see on take a lake like Oconee or Sinclair. After the morning, like on Oconee or Sinclair, the only way you're going to get a top water bite the rest of the day, for the majority of the time is around like brim eaters. And you're going to be appealing to those fish that are eating brim and crappie and stuff like that. They're shallow. They're anyway. You're forcing the fish to react. You're either going to get the fish to react or the fish is not going to react. As opposed to Lanier and like Allatoona, where with the herring and stuff is starting to get going, Murray, Hartwell, all them Savannah River chain lake,
all day. Where
when you got a population of bluebacks that is the major forage throughout the lake, you get this, they just school up and they get this random bout at, you go fish a place at, I know Kevin will say this, you can go fish a place at 12 o'clock and throw one time and catch a fish. You go back to it again 2 hours later and throw one time, and then you're like, damn, what are they doing? And then you start cycling through things, trying to figure out how to get them to bite. Then you leave it alone, and then you go back again and like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and throw it over there again. And then you catch one. And then in the process of you catching one and trying to get the treble hooks out and not get a treble hook in your hand, over there, oh my God, they're just boiling all over the surface over there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's just with the bluebacks, what bluebacks do. But I mean, bluebacks are fun, but blueback eaters have been the most frustrating creatures on earth.
Here's a question for you. I know both of y'all are running live scope on your boat. I watched the tournament at Lake Murray. Some of the elite guys that are out, they wasn't really chasing the herring. They were more waiting on the blow-ups. They wait for the blow-ups and they make a cast. Say on Lanier, Carter's, throw out tuna, Chattooga, Notley. Are you able to chase those herring schools that have fish and cast at them without them blowing up and catch the fish?
Yeah.
Or do you basically have to wait for the blow-ups? Is it kind of setting up like Murray, or can you follow the school?
But I think on Murray, though, I think they were just in the right. They positioned their boats in the right.
That's what I'm saying. They kind of
positioned
set
their
up
boats
just
like
waiting.
off points and all, and then or around the docks. And then when they came up, they just came up.
Yeah, they was waiting for them. They was waiting for them to eat.
What about
you're playing a schooling game? That's exactly. I've won tournaments and done good in tournaments, and I've crapped the bed in tournaments, sitting in one spot for way too long,
trying to wait on it.
But you're just like, you're sitting there, and when you see the fish, and I know probably every single one of y'all in this comment section, don't none of y'all lie. You see fish come up, and then they come up again, and then they come up a third time, and you get real good looks at them, and you're like, those are some damn good fish. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sit here. Maybe they'll come back up. Or you get down at the bottom of the boat, and you tie on something that you can heave them all. If they come up, you can make it to them. And I've sat there and I've done it. I did it this past weekend on Chattooga. This past weekend on Chattooga, it bit me and Bronson in the butt. And
because they didn't come up like you thought they would.
No, they come up. They were just the wrong species.
Oh, you got the stripers.
They was all hybrids, but it was like I told myself, I was like, if Kevin catches a lot of striper too, because he posts pictures. As y'all pay attention to him on Facebook.
Line burners.
Yep.
I know Kevin probably says the same thing too. if I catch a striper in an area, there's going to be some big spots roaming with them things. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I tell myself that because I feel like those big 5 and 6 pound spots that are nomadic, I think they think they're striper and they live with a striper. And sometimes that may not be the case. I don't know, but I mean, I don't claim to have all the answers to it, but I got a bad habit of this time of year. I'm Ricky Bobby when it comes to this time of year now through September. I'm either going to have a damn good bag of fish or I'm going to have 6 pounds.
Well, you do what you can do on that.
I'm not going to slow down and throw a worm. I'm not. Everything laying on deck of my boat right now is either on the surface or will not go less than a foot under the surface.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I want you to answer this, kind of piggyback a little bit on what you said, but there was also a question in there, like if you're going to Lanier tomorrow, what you got tied on. So maybe you can throw that out there, but I want you to kind of talk about what he's talking about. Just you got to take a client out. You got to.
As far as like especially my condition now with no boat, I'm just running on clients' boats. I got to work with whatever I got. Some boats don't have forward-facing sonar.
That's right.
Yeah, but on the forward-facing sonar thing, it really depends on what your fish are doing from day to day, and it is kind of random from day to day. I think anything to do with a herring could be kind of random from day to day, but there's days when they'll get more on the bait balls and away from their cover.
Yeah, they'll use the bait as cover, I think.
And they'll just sit out there and chase around and school all day long. And you're sitting there, you're like, oh, I got a school of them right here, throwing at them. I got to catch one out of there. All right, so school's still there chasing around with the bait. You just took one of the active fish out of it. Depending on what them fish do, I think if they follow that fish back to the boat, you're probably done in that area. But if you catch that fish and they're still more into following the bait around, I would kind of hang around a little more. But there's also days when, there could be bait around, but, they might be more relating to the cover and kind of hanging more around brush. So you might want to get in the area that's got a lot of bait around and kind of fish more around the brush. So you kind of got to watch and pay attention to what your fish are doing from day to day. Are they more into chasing bait balls? I might find a bait ball, a pretty good sized bait ball, and kind of follow that bait ball around if I keep seeing fish show up with that bait ball.
So you're following what you're seeing on your screen more so than what you're seeing on the surface.
Right. Okay. So especially with live scope now, I mean, it took all the questions out of it. Are they more on bait or are they coming from the brush? You can really kind of dial it in and kind of watch them from day to day, and like I said, I've followed bait balls around and caught them really good. And pay attention to that, because when you got an opportunity to do that, that's when you want to be up there with your foot on the trolling motor and constantly watching that bait. And as soon as you see fish busting the bait, maybe take something like a jigging minnow or forward-facing sonar minnow or hover rig, whatever you like to throw at those fish that are, kind of under the surface, schooling on bait. That's when you'll have good success with that. Underspin would be another one. But if your fish are more on brush, I would kind of go throw my top waters over that, go throw my Seville's over that. See, if they react. Normally when you fish are on brush, you'll have an opportunity to catch one or two fish and then move on. Go run as much of that brush around the same kind of places that you're finding them. Over the last month, we're coming out of, herring spawn, shad spawns kind of tapering off. Your fish are still around those areas, but they're not necessarily, up there, feeding on that herring spawn stuff anymore. So now they've kind of moved out and they're in the brush around the places where herring have been spawning. So that's the types of places that I would take my, my top waters, my Sebills, those types of lures and go throw at them. Of course, you always want to have one on deck like you've seen up at Murray that you can pick up and throw as far as you can throw it to hit some fish that may be schooling 30 or 40 yards away from your boat.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing about what I saw on Murray was they would be on the spot, and then, they're not legitimately fishing for schoolers coming up, but they were always ready. So I want to let you answer this question first, and then Ryan, I'll explain to you what I want you to do. Had a couple questions. What, if you're going Lanier tomorrow, what would you be throwing? And then Michael Temple said, what are the 3 top water baits? And I want you to talk about that. And then Ryan, on your side,
we got a bunch of questions.
got a bunch of them on your side. I want you to, Jeremiah mentioned the double props buzz bait. And of course, we've had a couple questions about a horny toad. So, well, yeah, it is. But I want you to start, Kevin, so tomorrow, what you doing?
Tomorrow on Lanier. All right. Two different styles of fishing. All right. If I'm going to fish back in the creeks, I'll probably have what Ryan would have, buzz bait. I would have a pop-ar and a prop bait.
Prop bait?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Something like a devil's horse or something like
Tim Hancock happy.
Like a Brian's Bees, the one that looks like a bluegill.
So you're going more for the brim eaters back there?
Yeah, Lucky Craft, the little Kelly Jays. If y'all have ever seen those, you don't hear many people talk about them, but them things are deadly on a brim bed. The other thing that I would do if I'm going to fish offshore out on the main lake, I'm going to have a skimmer, I'm going to have a fluke, I'm going to have a Sebill, I'm going to have a pencil popper.
Okay, which one would let's say you're out on the main lake. Which one of those would you start with and why?
So if I had cloud cover, I would start with the fluke. Early in the morning, I was kind of lean more to starting with a fluke. And then once the sun gets up, I would go to the pencil popper and I'd go to the Sebill, chrome. Of course, if, from day to day, you kind of just got to ask your fish. But those would be the lures I would rotate through. And, for me, I ain't going to sit there on one brush pile and retie and keep throwing at the same brush pile. I'll pull up to a brush pile. I'll start with the fluke, throw the fluke at them, see how they respond to that. If they come up, if they're short striking it, then I might pick up a Sebill and follow that up. Then on the next brush pile, go to a different place. On my next place, I might start with a pencil popper. Throw that over them, see how they respond to that, and then throw a follow-up bait until I can figure out which lure are your fish more interested in. So once you figure out which lure they really, really want for whatever day, that's when I'd start pulling up and making 1 or 2 casts and leaving. Once I figure out, hey, they're really, really eating a Sebill today, really good, I would run that. I'd just keep running it. Same thing with the fluke. We've had better success the last couple of times I've been out really on the fluke, more so than anything.
More so than top water, like true top water?
Yeah. I think a lot of it too, we were working the fluke really slow, kind of just letting it fall here and there. Either that or kind of burn it, kill it. And a lot of times you'll burn it, kill it, then they hit it while you're just falling. That kind of tells you, as a matter of how, they've been post spawn too. So, even a lot of times when we're working our top water lures, say like that pencil popper, for example, really, really slow, just getting those slow chop, 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 just really, really slow across the surface a lot of times to get these fish to come up and get it.
You think that's because you have to slow down because it's post spawn?
Right. Giving them plenty of time to get to that lure, plenty of time with that lure so they can get to it.
Okay. Ryan? let you handle well, you can say your top 3 baits as well, but of course the questions towards you was number 1, the double prop buzz bait. Number 2, what do you do as far as the rigging again on the horny toad? Which hook you're using? I saw that in the questions.
Yeah. The double prop buzz baits like the Accent B2s, which you got some over there.
Mm-hmm.
You can come pick them up here at the store. The double props, y'all probably heard me say it before. I don't throw single blade buzz bait.
Right.
I don't throw single blade buzz baits. If it was a difference in the gates of heaven and the gates of hell, and they said you can come through the gates of heaven and you only could throw a single blade buzz bait, then I guess I'm gonna bust open the gates of hell. I guess
you just ain't gonna throw it.
I'm just not gonna throw it. I know people have success throwing it, but I just don't throw it. I feel like with the compared, and this is my personal opinion, I feel like with the double blade buzz bait, I can steer it better around cover than you can a single blade. Single blades want to go one way or the other. They want to flop one side. They either lefty or a righty. They don't run straight up and down like people think they do.
That is true.
They lay on their side, whichever way they do. And you can tune one, but I ain't gonna sit there and tune one when I'm hitting both sides of a dock. And that's real critical. If you gonna go throw, I say this: if you gonna go throw a buzz bait and you want to try to get up your chances as best as you can this time of year to get a buzz bait bite, if you ain't hitting cover, you're wasting your time almost. You're gonna catch some random fish here and there, but a lot of these fish, like what Kevin was talking about with these post spawn, like the largemouth especially, before they head back out, the ones that want to head back out to the main lake, the first thing that they do is they go right underneath the dock. Right. Well, if you take that buzz bait, that double blade buzz bait, and you steer it and just all the way down the side of that dock, you're making a ton of commotion underneath the surface, and they think it's something trying to get away from them. So they will come and absolutely demolish the thing. But the double blade buzz bait, I feel like also too, I get better bites. I get better quality fish on a double blade than a single blade. That's my personal opinion. I know people call big largemouth, big heads.
Well, that's why you're on here for your opinion
on single blade buzz baits, but I just don't throw a single blade buzz bait. I don't do it.
Metal blades or plastic blades?
I throw metal blades, and I don't mess with all these fancy colors, a wire tied skirt, either white or black, and put something on the back of it. I always run a trailer of some sort, either a Kitech super glued on or the Bass Pro Shops Cajun trailer is what I like to throw, just because it kind of has that blue glimmer one just has this herring translucency to it. I don't know what the deal with it is. He
always uses big words
I
can't spell.
I know it's bad habit. But the other thing, but when it comes to all those the double blade buzz bait, it's a double blade buzz bait, and then it's a horny toad, and that's it. The buzz bait is for really covering water really, really hard. Trolling motors on 8. You're not stopping. You ain't looking at anything. You're not looking at the squirrels. You're focused on what you're doing.
I've been in the boat with him.
You were in your bubble and you were going down the bank. You are not concerned about flipping your wacky worm beside this dock. You need to go ahead and get that out of your mind.
Shots fired.
I'm not saying anything to you.
I know.
I like the wacky worm.
I know it. But we're talking
top
water.
Well, like I said earlier, this time of year, I am Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last. And that's pretty much the way that I fish this time of year through about September, October. To me, a fantastic day in the summer is I get 5 bites.
Yeah, but you're looking for 5 quality bites.
I'm looking for five quality bites is all I'm looking for. But I'll take the buzz bait and I'll throw it around cover, throw it around docks. The horny toad is for when the sun starts to get up and when the fish are really starting to get underneath the dock floats a little bit better. Number one key ingredient to get bit on a horny toad when the sun gets up is you have to have the brim get up around the cover. When you start seeing the brim sitting underneath floats, sitting up there by the walkway, Big Belly Sally, she's up there somewhere hanging around. And if you skip that thing underneath there, you're making her make a decision whether or not she's going to eat it or not.
Right.
And you got to be good at skipping. You've got to be able to
That's another
skip it underneath the walkways. You got to be able to throw it behind the motor lifts. That one opening, that goes to the other side. You got to throw in there. You've got to be able to skip in there. You need to be able to backhand, forehand. You just got to be able to do it. Whether it's a spinning rod or bait caster, I don't care. Throwing a lot of different hooks. To answer the hook question, I've thrown a lot of different hooks over the years. The best one, and I'll give you the reason why. The best one I found is the 4-aught VMC drop dead weight hook in the 1/16 ounce with the weight.
Just enough.
Just enough. The reason why is because if I throw that thing up there with the 9-1-1 gear ratio reel that I throw that thing on, as soon as I get the giddy up going on it, when it hits up there, no matter what, that thing is turned over. Beforehand, for all the people talking about fishing a horny toad weightless, it's totally different than a fluke. I know Kevin, sometimes he'll rig a hook upside down with a fluke. I've seen you put, I know you'll rig one upside down. The horny toad is completely different. They get that thing, and if they get it and it's upside down, you're never going to get a hook in them. It's the act of God to get a hook in.
So you're putting the weight on the bottom.
So the weight flips it over and it keeps it up. And when they get it, you can set the hook straight up or you can set the hook sideways and get them like that. But that's I do did you say you went in the morning brim eaters looking? See, in the morning, I'm not even concerned about brim eaters.
Well, if I was going to go in the morning looking for brim eaters, now the only way I'm going to go looking for brim eaters is if I know there's brim beds around. Otherwise, I don't really fool with them. So if I'm back in the creek fishing a little sandy pocket and there's a boat dock there, there's probably some brim beds somewhere around. This is on Lanier.
But probably apply to everywhere.
Otherwise, dude, I'm gonna be out there chasing the herring eaters.
Yeah, so that's what. Y'all got two different styles, and that's what I like about this.
But now, I do like to fish brim beds. You can get right quick on a brim bed.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
That big belly Sally, like you said, might be up there.
And not just big largemouths, but big spots.
That's
big
something that I don't think people think about.
That picture that you put up of me, that was Sal Pinto was with me, and I caught that one out from underneath. I skipped it up underneath the pontoon between the motor and the pontoons, and skipped it between the motor and underneath the pontoon, and she got it out beside the motor, and and it was just an explosion. It was like a mini nuke went off, and it was. That spot's over 5.5 pounds, but the spots, they're so aggressive, and the spots seem to be more like we as humans are. It's like, we don't want to eat the same thing every day. It's like some days they want to eat herring. Well, some days one of them might break off and go, I'm going to go over here and go look for some brim. And same thing with us. Like one day we might want to eat little Peking. And the next day we want to go get KFC.
That's specific.
I'm going to look on here and see if I can find a picture of this spot that was caught that had a full-size shell cracker.
But yeah,
look for that.
But yeah, it's a 9-1-1 gear ratio reel, and then
but you're using that to pick it up quick.
It's to pick up quick, but I will go ahead and tell you right now, if you fish this, sometimes the way that if you fish it, you are going to lose some fish, because if you want to find out how fish how fast they fish can move,
that's on spot.
Catch one on a horny toad.
Yeah,
you will find out how fast they can swim, because they don't make a reel yet that can catch up with a bass.
Yeah,
they don't make one that can catch up with one. When one wants to come towards you, you can't do it.
I don't know. We can see.
You
But
can see
what
hit
you
that-
got? Can you? Let me
hit
see if
that
I.
play button right there.
So when you hit the play button, I got to
I'll
hold
hit
that
the play
angle.
button right.
So what
there.
that is, if you can tell,
That is a
full size shell cracker
shell cracker.
in a spotted bass's gullet.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so for people that think and say, there you see the fish a little bit, you guys can probably see it. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify later on, you're just going to have to use your imagination. But what that is, that's a full size shell cracker in a spotted bass. Last time I caught a buzzbait, a fish on a buzzbait only near. Number one, the color was black. Number two, it was in about 6 foot of water. Number three, it was about a 3.5 pound spot.
Yeah,
And I watched it come out from cover.
That
and
is
attack it.
healthy.
Yeah.
And it bent the ever-loving daylights out of that buzzbait. It tore it all to pieces, which back to a question we had up there in the comment section, double-bladed buzzbaits. You mentioned the B2B, but do you have I know you like to use some custom stuff, but as far as something that somebody can go buy, you got a particular brand. And I know Bardet is out there throwing the Picassos. And listen, but it is a good bait.
Yeah,
It's a good bait.
I've never thrown the Picasso one. I know some people like it. I just throw the custom ones that I got made. But when I'm practicing, I only throw those custom ones in tournaments. Other than that, I'll throw that Accent B2 buzz bait. The Josh Good, the True South Custom Lures. I got a few of those. The V Twin buzz. Those are good buzz bait. The biggest thing that I look for in a buzz bait, unlike in a spinner bait, is the wire. I want the strongest wire I can get. Unfortunately, the Accent B2 does not have the best wire in the world.
Which is what I got.
Yeah, and unfortunately, after about 4 or 5 fish, it's toast.
Yeah,
and you have to get another one. But
it'll catch fish.
It'll catch fish. The one that I throw has a 68 thousandths diameter wire in it, and they ain't. I mean, we have to catch a marlin to get that thing to bend. I mean, it's a big ass wire.
Right.
But the bait is this long. This is the front where the tie is. The back of the hook is here. Yeah. This bait is 6.5, almost 7 inches long. And then by the time I add a 3/0 trailer hook to the back of it, I'm slinging a bait that's this long on that double blade buzz bait.
Yeah,
it is huge.
Ryan's throwing a coat hanger.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Yes.
It is. Let me ask you this: why don't? And this is just maybe a dumb question, but why don't buzz baits and stuff like that work as well on the main body of water, like bringing across points as, say, a chug bug or something like that? Because you're trying to do the commotion. Is it what it's replicating?
I think it'll work out there sometimes.
But not a lot of people throw it.
It will.
No.
Yeah.
It will up shallower. It seems to be a better shallow. When the fish are up there in like less than 10 feet of water, they'll come eat a buzz bait. Perfect example of this was we were going down the bank and we were going up to this little big boulder point about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I looked out there on the point up there in like 5 foot of water. I had turned and I just so happened to look down at the Garmin and I saw 4 up there in like 4 foot of water. And they were just right up there together. Well, I was like, I had my buzz bait in my hand because we were trying to find a buzz bait bite. So when I threw it up there way past them, I brought it over to them and I watched them. And they come up after it, and they went, Rah!
Oh, and they stopped,
and they wouldn't eat it. And they like, I mean, if you guys scope enough, you'll see them just, oh, they're coming, and they just like, I don't know how they do it. It's like they just stop. I don't know how they can just stop on a dime like they can, but I don't think it's a bait. It's more of a reaction bait. To me, a buzz bait's more of a reaction
which is
bait
good on cover.
than it is really anything else.
Yeah.
I think the buzz bait, there again, I think there'll be days when it don't matter what lure you throw at them, a floating doorknob with a treble hook, they're going to eat it.
Right.
Days
like
that are really, really good, they'll eat any dadgum thing.
Yeah.
But I really think that a buzz bait truly appeals more toward a fish that is hiding in cover, whether it be something like on a boat dock, a shade line, or
that you don't have
lay
on a
down.
Yeah.
Right, you're not going to have that kind of cover in open water. I mean, you'll have brush piles, but all of that stuff is under the water.
So it's not a good calling up bait. It's more of a reaction.
I'm not going to say it's not a good calling up bait. I think it's a reaction bite that burn that thing past a piece of cover, the fish, hey, I better eat it before it gets away because it looks like nothing.
It doesn't.
It looks like nothing.
Most
That's
of
right.
most of your bites on a buzz
You know.
bait, that's, y'all probably heard me say this before. If you're not hitting the bank, you're not gonna get bit. You about almost want to lay it on the bank and pull it into
Bring
the
it off.
water,
Or on a piece of cover.
or on a piece of cover and bring it into the water. And typically, it's if there one wants to bite, it's typically that quick.
Yeah.
But if you probably heard me say this before. I think when in that fall fishing podcast, me and Farmer, that one that we did, I throw it up there and I give it about 5 feet off the bank, and then I'm reeling it and throwing it again. The fish that I want to see that eat a buzzbait, they eat it pretty quick, right from the get go. When you are on the cast, I don't know that we got there. That's a question. What throwing? Were you throwing a buzzbait on?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Your length, rod length, and power.
I throw it on a sink. I used to throw it on I used to throw it on a graphite rod, but for the past year, past 2 years, I haven't. I actually switched over to a 7.2 heavy Mojo glass from St. Croix and an 8:1-to-1 gear ratio Revo reel. And I throw it on 17-pound P-line CXX. I don't throw it on braid. I don't throw it on fluorocarbon. If you want to throw it on that, you can. I like the P-line because if they come up and they get it, they can go down with it. The biggest thing that you need to learn when throwing buzz baits, and I'm sure Kevin will tell you this, you have that blow up. It has got to be and then set the hook. There's none of this and then jerking it. You have got to train yourself to basically go 1/1000 and then set the hook. In order and if you can learn to do that, you won't hardly ever lose them on a buzz bait.
Did you ever start
trailer hook or not?
Did you ever start throwing a drop shot behind a fish you miss on buzz bait?
I don't really have time for that, to be
Because
personally
his
honest.
trolling motor's on 8.
Got to get to the next one.
That's
Got
right.
time for that.
And so Surf Dad wants to know, Kevin or Ryan, either one of you guiding on any local lakes? Well, right here's your man as far as guiding and full
Give
time
me
and all that.
information, Kevin.
Yeah.
Lanier, I'm doing on client's boats trip right now. I should have my boat back pretty soon, hopefully. You can get me on Facebook, Lipsticker Fishing.
Yep.
I try to post on Facebook a good bit.
You do Instagram or anything like that?
I've got an Instagram, but I don't keep up with it very good on Instagram.
Me neither.
Yeah,
Me
I
neither.
keep
It's
up
just
better.
not-
I
yeah.
keep up better with Facebook stuff than I do everything else. I am working on some other things. I ain't going to say what yet, but I'm trying to get a few things going that I think everybody's going to really like.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. We're going to work on some stuff.
Yeah.
That'll be available hopefully over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But you can call me 678-459-8419. Kevin at lipstickerfishing.com. Yeah, you can reach me there too, or you can just hit me up on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. And so he, he's actually one of our sponsors on our Thursday night show, which brings me up. If you guys know any of these companies that would like to sponsor the Tuesday nighters, hey, I want to talk to them. Mojo Glass. How about you? What do you throw a buzz bait on?
I like throwing, when I'm throwing a buzz bait, I'm kind of back in places. Like I said, I don't really throw them offshore. Sometimes I'll throw a whopper plopper out offshore. But like I said, I really think that buzz bait works better, kind of, playing off what Ryan said too. I think it's more of a cover type bait that you're going to get bit from a bass that's coming off of a piece of cover versus a bass out in open water, or even a bass coming up out of a brush pile. But there again, I think you'll have some days where they just eat stuff so good they'll just bite that thing.
Yeah.
But as far as a rod that I throw it on, I like to throw it on like a 7-foot medium heavy fast action 20-pound test. I like that rod because I can skip that up underneath the docks really good. That 20-pound test, when that fish gets it there again, let him get it and then give him the beans. Get that hook in him. A lot of your buzz baits got pretty thick hooks. So that 20-pound test will bury that hook. And I want to have a good rod, not too light of a rod, because more than likely you're going to have to drag him out from under a dock or get some pressure on that fish to get him away from whatever cover he's on.
Right.
So you got to have a rod to be able to do that.
Okay. And so Jeremiah says, when do you opt for black versus white on a buzzbait? Obviously day, night, but a lot of people use exclusively black, and I guess some of Marble Hill's finest are in trouble back there.
Get them, boys.
But I know some guys that throw exclusively black all the time. Other guys switch it up. What about you? Like, what would you start off with? And do you ever use like brim patterns?
I kind of stick with white and silver most of the time. That's usually what I throw first. Down at Oconee, I'll throw like black and gold in the stained water. I think the contrasting colors on that stained water sometimes will get you bit. And I think you could throw white down there sometimes too.
Right. You just let the water quality dictate what color you're
water
throwing?
clarity. If it's real muddy water, I might start with a black and gold, or if it's cloudy, I might start with a black and gold. If it's sunny, I would go more toward the whites or the pearls, or something like that.
Okay, makes sense. What about you, Ryan?
If they're on shad, if they're feeding on shad or feeding on herring, I would definitely start with white or silver.
Makes sense. All right, what about you?
I pretty much throw white or black. I do more. What I actually do more of than I don't really particularly get too deep into color. I actually go with size. I either throw a half ounce or a quarter ounce. The blades on a half ounce are bigger. The blades on the quarter ounce are smaller. They have two different styles of noise and pattern of noise with the flash. You got the big half ounce one. It's a big profile. It's louder blades, bigger blades. They're moving more water. The little quarter ounce ones, they barely make any noise. I mean, you throw them up there and you can't even, sometimes you can't even hear them running. The ones that I throw, and they're itty bitty blades, but I've more so than not anything more. What I look for is if I pick up a buzz bait and I throw a buzz bait, if I throw it in a spot and there's a bubble trail, then I feel like I'm probably going to get bit on a buzz bait. If I throw one up there and I don't have a bubble trail, I'll put the buzz bait down quicker than anything, because I've had more success over the years throwing buzz baits where I get a bubble trail.
I watched a video. I don't even remember who it was. They was up in Tennessee throwing on a lake in the springtime, talking about the bubbles and everything.
Put the camera on you so we can see that beautiful face while you're talking back there.
I ain't talking now. So.
Well, next time, put the camera on.
I don't talk enough to get the camera.
Okay, all right.
I will say this though. Jeremiah said something about day and night. That's a myth.
As far as black at night.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me.
I've caught him on wide at night, man.
Yeah, I agree. But you peeked Kevin up right here.
I'm gonna throw you a curveball, Ryan. Do you think the bubble trail has to do with barometric pressure?
Oh shit, we're bringing in science.
I don't know if it has any. I don't know what it has to do. I feel like certain areas of the lake at certain times will have a bubble trail in certain pockets and whatnot, and I think that. I've always heard that it has something to do with a combination of oxygen in the water and the barometric pressure.
What makes you think you're going to get bit with bubbles versus without? What about that?
I feel like for some reason, like what Kevin's talking about, something with the barometric pressure and the oxygen levels on the surface. I think it pushes those fish up there that are wanting to feed, and they'll eat a buzz bait quicker.
Well, hell, let's just get a little bit deeper. Say you go up shallow. One day you got bubbles, you catch a few. Can you go out on the main lake and catch a few on a walking bait? But if you're up shallow one day, there's no bubbles, you going to go out on the main lake and be able to catch them on a walking bait? I want to hear that from both of them. You think there's a days that's broke down, hey, we can fish top water today, boys, versus, let's go do something else.
So like on what you're asking, so okay.
Say you're
in your
throwing
Marble Hill way,
whatever.
what you're saying
that was a good way to describe it.
It is, but if you're getting bubbles shallow, you should be able to. Will that dictate whether you can catch them out deep?
Yeah. Versus if you don't have bubbles.
You don't have bubbles like what you're seeing,
is it vice versa? Is it different?
So what I think is, when you have a high barometer, it's your atmospheric pressure is going to be a lot heavier. So your bubble trail is not, if you have a bubble trail, your bubbles are going to pop a lot faster, or you may not have a bubble trail. So, we all know whenever you have a low pressure system come through, fish are going to bite better, regardless of whether they're up shallow or they're out deep. But I would think, and a lot of times your offshore fish, regardless of the barometric pressure, sometimes those are the ones that you have to go catch, the fish that are out a little bit deeper. When there is a high barometer, I tend to have more success catching the fish that are out a little bit deeper, which would also kind of, if you were up shallow looking for a bubble trail in the Marble Hill way.
In the Marble Hill way, that's right.
If you were up shallow, checking your barometric pressure with your bubble trail, if those bubbles are popping really, really quick, I really think your barometer would be up higher, which would probably be a tougher bite too, to be
the way you
fishing
see it,
with a high pressure system.
All right, well, let me throw this at you then, because I know somebody in the like Ron was talking about calmer water, less ruckus, and all that. I've always heard top water is better with a little chop. We're talking main lake, getting out on the main lake with a little bit of chop, but there are days when it's just flat calm. So, what's your bait of choice on a flat calm day or morning? What are you starting off with as far as pure top water?
Top water, I would try it two different ways. I would try one, making a big ruckus on the water with like a pencil popper and just see if you're getting bit. How are your fish responding to it? The other thing I would do is I would try like a chug bug, a chugging style bait, maybe like a chug bug or a Rico popper or something like that. If the water's slicked off, and really give that thing a pop and kind of let your ripples settle out. That would be where I would start with the top water in those types of conditions.
But when you say ripples, you're talking about you're slowing the bait down. Pop it, let it sit for a second.
Yeah, and then, like when you pop your lure, you're going to have these little rings that come off of your lure.
Yeah.
Kind of pop it real slow and then kind of let that settle out and pop it again. And then, of course, I'd go on the flip side of that, too, and throw something to make a big ruckus like a pencil popper and really just throw that thing out there and try to trick them into thinking that there's some schooling fish.
Try to get that action going, make a little commotion.
Yep, make them think that, hey, somebody's up there eating some herring. Hey, there's a herring, and go up there and bite it.
Go up there and bite it.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Ron?
I'm pretty much in the same train of thought as Kevin. I'll typically look for spitters, walking spitters in calmer water, especially like on the main lake. In rougher water conditions, I'm throwing pretty much something that will walk, like a spook of some sort. But I can't sit here and scientifically tell you that one is definitely better than the other in certain conditions, because I've had them where the first thing you pick up, you just throw it and they'll eat it. And I try to put that rhyme or reason in the back of my head and don't think about it much anymore. And I'll just throw it until I can't get bid on it anymore. Right. But I like it when it comes to spitters, and we're talking, the walking spitters. I like the gunfish. I like the evergreen shower blows. I like chug bugs for slower presentation, and then after that, the walkers. It's Vixen. That new art. I say it's new. I've caught a bunch on it the past couple of weeks on that. It's chrome. It's the one that looks like a Sammy. That I can't remember what the name of it.
I got them on the wall.
But it looks like a Sammy. But it's about this big. You can throw the dang thing a mile. I like the skimmers styles, like the I'm a skimmers. I also like the I'm a little stick, and the I'm a little stick. If you're looking for something that is 3.5 inches long that you can throw 60 yards.
That's a pencil popper.
That's a little pencil popper. It's
Yeah.
the Ima's little bitty baby pencil popper.
That's I'm a baby stick.
That little, I'm a baby stick, little stick, whatever it's called. I only have one gripe about the bait is the hooks are just too small.
Change them out.
The minute, no, it's not about changing them out. It's if you catch a big spot on it, the hooks are shot.
Yeah, but change them out. Put some bigger hooks.
Yeah, but if you put the bigger hooks on it,
you
wouldn't
put
it
bigger
change
hawks
the-
on it,
would
it doesn't
change the-
spit the same way.
Yeah.
here's a
I've
question.
already tried.
Which one? Is this your question or a question?
Yeah. No, this is a question I got. So, back when I did fish 5 years ago,
Right.
we'd pull up on some points, fish be busting everywhere. Could not get them to bite at all. You'd start tying different baits on, start throwing something else, could not get them to bite. Say somebody pulls up on one of those points, you've thrown everything in the boat, but there's still fish blowing up and rolling. What would you do? Would you go drop shot? Would you go a swim bait? If they will not hit anything top water, what would y'all suggest to do? For
I would say, piggybacking on that, when I did a podcast with Henry Cowan, who fly fishes for stripers, he says if you see them like that, they're really not actually hitting on the top. They're actually hitting just below the surface a little bit. That was his explanation with the stripers. And so he would take his fly, of course, he's fly fishing, and he would drop it down something that would get it down about 1 foot or 2 foot. He said them things are busting and rolling, but they're actually hitting just below the surface. But in your experience, how do you actually get one of those fish to fire up for topwater, or do you have to go to something else?
Sometimes the best thing to do is go find a fresh school of fish. First of all, don't sit there and throw at fish that you've already threw at over and over again.
You're not going to make them fire.
You're not going to do anything with them. If you pull up to a group of schooling fish that are schooling, it's probably not going to take too long for you to shut them down, just with the presence of your boat being there. But whatever you start with, I would, not sit there on the same school of fish trying to retie different stuff. Throw a few presentations at them and leave them. Try to look at the size of the bait that they're feeding on. Like if you can see bait that's getting knocked out of the water, try to look at the size of the bait that you're seeing them on. Try to figure out if it's thread fin, if it's herring. Try to match the hatch. If you can, if it's just say, for example, if they're feeding on bigger herring, maybe throw I'm a skimmer grande, the big I'm a skimmer. If they're feeding on smaller bait fish, maybe throw the smaller skimmer. Same thing with your walking baits. You've got full size spooks, smaller spooks. Try to match the hatch with whatever the fish are knocking out of the water.
Okay.
You might miss a few of them, but you definitely have to dial in their food source and what they're feeding on. If you don't do that, you're not going to catch them.
Doesn't matter what you're throwing.
Well, talking about the feeding on, can we talk about some of these people that go out and throw a clear bait for top water?
I like
you can
throwing
do that
clay
too.
bait.
Like, what is that supposed to even represent? I mean, I know me and Danny talked about it. When was that?
We talk about it. Yeah, I like
Thursday?
throwing a clear spook.
A lot of times what I'll do is I will throw a clear spook with a feather on it. And I'll throw just say, for example, one that I use a lot, it's the little Teckle Nick Knocker, the pup. And, they make like a ghost minnow. They make a clear ice. A lot of times you can put a feather on that. And every time you catch a fish on it, they'll have that feather.
What does a fish think that is? I mean,
I think
do they see the body of it, or is it completely clear like what we see?
I think I think
Commotion,
they'll
maybe?
see the light coming through the lure. So I think they'll see some of the light, and I think that light really kind of makes that
Does something like
that-
irrigation or
yeah,
irrigation,
the way that-
iridescent?
the way that reflects through the lure onto that feather will kind of, have like some light shimmer coming off of it. And I think they'll see that and key in on that.
That makes sense. And then, guys, I do see you in the comment section there with that adult-oriented humor that I am not going to touch. I'm going to try to stay out of trouble tonight. How do you like wake baits, topwater square? Let's see. Let me read that again. How do you like the wake baits as far as topwater, the square bill wake baits? I guess like a McStick or the Zero. What is it?
Like
the
a
Zero,
Mikey?
like a Spro.
like a red fin.
Yeah, something like that.
The red fins, the only time you pull a red fin out on Lake Lanier is when it is March or April and it is nasty weather, raining, windy, and they will absolutely choke a red fin.
You ever fish with them?
I do. And, I use a wake bait a lot for post-spawn fish. There again is something that you can crawl really, really slow across the surface and give those fish really plenty of time to get to that lure.
It's just, but it's not good year round, like in the deep of summer, like heart of summer when it's hot.
About the only time I throw it is when you got herring spawn and post spawn fish together. That's about the only time I'll throw that wake bait. I'm sure I'm probably missing out on something somewhere by not throwing it, but those are the times when I feel like I've got the most confidence in wake baits during that time of the year.
Right.
And a Mikey, a red fin, the PH Customs makes a funny looking hot dog looking thing with a bill on it, and it just kind of rocks back and forth through the surface like this.
I got you.
Now the red fins, that's what y'all target stripers at, and not correct.
They used to, right? They used to be a big popular thing.
Catch them on that.
Like on the riff raft and stuff.
Yeah.
What?
What are you mumbling about over there? Speak.
The only time I throw red fin is about early stages of the spot spawning and the herring spawn.
For bass.
Yeah.
That's like the big long dirt bag,
About the only time I'll pick the dang thing up is, like I said, if it is nasty, just miserable weather and the water temperature is about 58 to 62 degrees, if you want to catch a damn big spot that's fixing to go to bed, that red fin will get them.
Okay.
You won't get a ton of bites on it, but there's a lot of guys want a lot of money in March on a red fin, and they don't get talked about a whole lot, but
I think you can catch
the window is so small for it, and it really, I mean, God's honest truth, seriously, that wake up in the morning and it's pissing rain,
right?
Spitting rain for an hour, quit for an hour, rain for an hour, winds blowing out of the east, just nasty. Everything should say, don't go bass fishing.
That's
on a herring lake with spotted bass. Just go pick up a bone red fin and don't throw anything else.
And just slow roll it.
Just throw it around the top. Just painstakingly slow.
Them spots will come up off our beds and hit them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think most of the time what we targeting really is them spots. It gets over their bed and they just so slow, and they just come up and they just boil it. Yeah. And it's just you're just like, there's no doubt what happens when it happens.
Yeah. How about this, Brad Silvers? Hey, if you're late to the party, that's okay, baby. You finally made it, but he wants to know, what's your favorite nighttime topwater that's not a buzz bait? And he put the jitterbug. And I know that our buddy on Thursday nights, Kevin Thornton, absolutely loves the jitterbug bite at night. But
I was going to ask that question, but about green lights, because I cannot catch a damn fish on topwater on a green light.
So fishing at night and you don't have a buzz bait, but you got to choose a topwater bait. What would you throw? Lights or no lights? Just what would you at least try? What would be the first thing that would come to your mind?
Lights, I'd throw a fluke or a flutter spoon. It ain't
very
rarely do I throw a topwater at night, but I think if I was going to try to throw a topwater, I'd just throw a plopper. A whopper plopper.
I hate that bait. What about you? Hey, it's just a buzz bait in a different form.
Hey.
It's a buzz bait in a different form. But you know what I'm saying?
If it's a light and there's fish, I can physically see fish, and that light is like underneath like out in front of a dock or
You'll
underneath the
throw a
dock.
toad, wouldn't you?
I'll skip underneath it with a horny toad.
Yeah,
I
I've seen you do that.
all the damn years I fished, I've never caught a fish on top water on green light.
We the other thing that I'll throw too, but I cannot stress this enough. You have to get off the light.
Yeah, you got to back up.
You
always got
have to be off the light. I have caught fish on Seville's, burning them across the surface.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen you do that.
That's how I used to win them summertime tournaments when it was real nasty hot. Just go throw a bill on.
You're just looking for it. The last thing that fish are expecting, I think, is a topwater that looks like a bait fish
At night on a light.
Yeah. And if I'm just going to go down the bank to throw topwater, probably a white whopper plopper, Chapo, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just don't throw buzz bait much more at night anymore. I know some people probably still do, but I can't really get bit on it any good anymore. Like I did when I was fresh out of high school. We used to go in July and catch them on buzz bait, black war eagle buzz bait and stuff like that. And then that was back in my single blade days before the double blade days. But
you evolved.
That's what we used to throw. But I cannot tell you the last time I got bit on a buzz bait or a whopper plopper at night.
Yeah,
I can't tell you the last time. Most of the time, I'm either going to fish lights,
black
or I'm
spinner
going to
bait.
go black spinner bait.
I can tell you what I did on.
That's
Latham.
what I spend most of my time doing. I'm
And
either throwing an old monster, a jig, or a big Colorado blade.
Yeah.
Has the black
That's it.
spinner bait bite come back on Lanier? You know, Ryan, I remember.
We wrecked them last.
I remember me-
I don't think it ever left.
Yeah.
Well,
We
Hey,
wrecked
you
them.
Okay,
left.
listen.
Blake, you left.
Listen,
You
so-
left. Your ass left. And quit fishing.
Ryan is who showed me to go throw a spinner bait at night, and I think about 4 cast in, about got my arms jerked off, and I looked in the back of the boat and I said, "This is damn amazing."
It's the same way with that boy I work with. Them 2 boys I work with. That I took them. They've been begging me to take them fishing. And last Thursday night, we finally got off work at a decent time. And I said, you know what? I said, I might go tonight. And he said, well, if you want to go, take us. I said, all right. I said, if we go, I said, I ain't quitting at dark. They said, well, what are you going to do? I said, we're going to throw nothing but top water till the sun goes down. And then when the sun goes down, I said, we're going to go throw black spinner bait. And they looked at me like, huh? You know, like a black spinner bait.
Right.
And I was like, you just wait. And that one boy, we pulled up to the first place if we tied him on, and he threw that thing out there. And I was sitting there explaining to him what was going to happen. I said, 1 or 2 things is going to happen. I said, they're either going to jerk the rod out of your hand, and it's going to be the most explosive thing you ever felt in your life. That's subsurface. Or you're just going to be reeling the thing along, and the blade's just going to be thump, 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 thump. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, damn, my blade quit turning. If your blade quit turning, you better set the hook.
It's fun. It is fun.
Because if the blade quits turning, you better set the hook because you got a big one.
You
Well,
remember
he caught one spot about 4 pounds. And when he just set the hook, and he was like, he just turns and looks at me. I got my headlamp on right here, and he just turns and looks at me. He goes, "It did that other bite that you were talking about." I was just
It
like,
did that other thing.
but his first bite, it was like his 4th cast, and it absolutely just jerked the rod out of his hand.
Oh, I bet.
For me, fishing right now, period. I'm during daylight hours, I'm throwing nothing but top water, and then at night, I'm just gonna throw nothing but black spinner bait right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I get it. All right. So a couple things in the comment section. Drew Pat, no feet show tonight. Danny's feet are retired. I'm not sticking them out on the thing. Long story, man. It was just one of those nights. So, but this is a 2-part question for you. I saw it up there. Somebody wanted to know Fred Ashcraft. When is the best time on Lake Lanier to hire a guide to take out for the best possibility? I want you to answer that one. And then I'm going to find the other question. I'll let you answer that one first.
For the best possibility of what?
When's the best time to take a guide trip on Lanier let's just say for size?
Catch size when they're pre-spawn.
pre-spawn. So early
February into March.
February into March.
Yep.
How about for numbers?
For numbers, probably on this topwater game we're about to get into.
Yeah, so summertime
I
going
would
through.
say in around about June for numbers.
Yeah, so and then there was another one. I'll try to remember it. J.R. Mitchell wants to know: are you chunking that cover with a spinnerbait or parallel in the bank with it?
At night,
And we'll wait till he rehydrates himself over there to switch the camera back on. So
Sorry,
either one of
fellas. Sorry.
you need to take 2 at a time over there.
I can't drink that fast.
Apparently,
nighttime.
nighttime. And I will say this: put the camera on. There we go. It might come out tomorrow. It might be Thursday. But I sat down with Bill Payne earlier this week, and we recorded how Bill Payne fishes at night for bass. So that video's Josh is finishing the final edits on that. You guys need to watch that. It's got a lot of good information, but I imagine both of these guys might do it a little bit differently. So say you're throwing a spinnerbait at night, Kevin. And I know this ain't topwater, but this is the way we go with the comments.
I'm gonna target rock, riprap rock, stuff like that.
Just target. So are you gonna parallel the bank at it, or you just
Yeah,
gonna cast to it?
I'll try to parallel the riprap and kind of chunk it around, like try to hit that rock when you want that thing. Clunk, 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 clunk,
So you're counting rocks.
banging it into that rock.
I got to.
Okay. What about you?
I got 3 ways I throw a black spinnerbait now. I throw it over long taper points, boulders, humps, just on the bottom, just real slow. I'll parallel riprap bridges and stuff like what Kevin's talking about. And I'll go ahead and get crucified by doing this. I have learned it's fun. It is so fun.
You damn right.
Live scoping over brush with a black spinnerbait.
Live scoping over brush with a black spinnerbait. Okay, I believe it.
They will come out of nowhere. They will come. All you need to do is just if you see fish, great, fantastic. All you need to do is just get that thing. And if you can get that thing looking on that scope and you can get it right on top of that brush, and you just do like what Kevin does with his underspin and just kind of pull it off that thing, you will see something go, and then,
well,
Marty, where'd that come from?
You know what's funny is you say that is that
do that with a crankbait.
Yeah, you can with a crank.
Yeah.
Barday mentions the Bill Payne video is going to be fire. He has a lot of good information, but even when Barday and Bill were on the Livewell Plus in this, Bill Payne uses his live scope at night to locate more of the brush and the targets, not necessarily the fish. So kind of like what you're saying, you see a brush pile, cast to it, bring it through, and then all of a sudden you could just get that explosion underwater, subsurface, as you say, get your rod jerked out of your hand. So that's kind of interesting.
I will say this. Let me say this: if you're new to black spinnerbait fishing and you've never really done it, don't buy one.
You better buy a bunch.
You better take. If you're gonna go to the lake and say I'm gonna go throw a black spinnerbait, you better have more than one, because you're gonna catch a couple fish and then that thing ain't gonna work right no more. Or even worst case scenario, you'll catch the very first one and then you'll bring it all the way to the boat and you're all excited and giddy and stuff. Oh, it's so fun. And then you get up there and you take the hook off, and if you're fishing a tournament, put it in live well. If not, you throw it back and then you get everything situated and you're sitting there and then you click and you look in and you, damn, something's missing. And the swivel's gone.
They destroyed it.
They jerked the swivel off.
Should have got a Sampo swivel.
Sampo swivel. We had that conversation, didn't we?
And you're going to lose them. If you fish it slow like it's supposed to, you're going to lose them. They're going to get hung up, and you're going to lose them. Oh,
good Lord, there it comes.
But I mean, it's what color blade. I mean, I'm kind of partial to the spot sticker ones, and they have black blades.
I knew it was coming.
What?
Comment about my beard. Where did it go?
Oh, I see.
You need to take some black dye to that thing.
Let me tell you something. I got up to go to church Sunday morning, and I was trimming up my goatee, and I got a bunch in there, and the guard that was on it, and it got hung up, and I was bogging the thing down, so I took it off to empty it out, and I stuck it back on, and I didn't stick it on good enough. So my upstroke went zit, and I took it all the way up to here, and I couldn't go like that. So it'll grow back. It'll grow back.
Kevin, do you do a lot of nighttime guide trips?
I do not do a lot of nighttime trips, hardly any at all because that would totally throw my schedule off.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have
Bill Payne does a lot of them at night.
Yeah, but he
Bill likes to switch
switches.
over.
He changes gears.
He does.
Do you like fishing at night a good bit, or is it?
I'm more of a daytime fisherman. I'm not really much too
You
big
like to
on
sleep
nighttime
like I
fishing.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if I was to do a night trip and turn around the next month, I'd totally throw my schedule off. I done got too old for
That's
that.
what I was getting ready to say.
I done got too old for that.
You
But
got to commit to it.
Yeah, back to your, as far as like seeing fish on your live scope at night, you probably are not going to see as many fish at night on your scope because fish will hold a lot tighter to cover in low light conditions, whether it be muddy water or nighttime and it's dark. They'll hold a lot tighter to that cover.
Yeah, looking good, Danny, my butt. Now on that too, I do remember when I had Barday and Bill Payne on, they talked about the fish you do see at night are mostly trash fish.
I think so too. I think a lot of trash fish come to the surface like your carps and your gars and they just float around.
Yeah, so
a lot of your bass, your predators, they're going to hang.
If
tight
you see
to cover.
I tell you this, if you see a mark out there on the main lake and it's long and big
rectangle,
and you throw something at it and it don't react to anything and then it keeps moving and you throw at it again, it ain't a bass, it's a gar.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it's a trash fish.
It's a gar. Yeah. Well, I know. I was just saying that it's a gar.
Yeah,
it's a gar. If it's out there sitting still and it just stays out there 60 foot in front of the boat, and you just, dang, what is that? And you keep throwing everything in it and it just don't react to anything. It's a gar.
It's a gar. Makes sense because he said trash fish.
That's kind of bass will check out a lure. I don't care what time of day it is, unless they're just so post spawn and so sick that they're not moving hardly at all. A bass is going to check a lure out.
Well, how about
check it out?
How about that question? If I see a gar, do I need to leave the area? Like if that's what he's seeing?
No, because gar's in there chewing on the buffet too. I mean, if there's just take for example herring spawn, gar is going to be there feeding too. They're all of these fish eat the same things. Gar, stripers, bass.
Gar's fun to catch. I don't care what it says.
Yeah, pretty short. Asking wifey for a birthday gift to go fishing with Kevin end of August, day fishing, maybe September. Can't wait. Well, hey, that's a good present to have. Been on the water with him. You'll definitely enjoy it. Tannic water. What's your favorite top water? On Tannic water. And I imagine you're getting down into the you got to get in the South, Georgia. We don't have a lot of tannic water up here.
There ain't but one choice for tannic water then, and that's where it was born. That's the devil's horse.
Prop bait.
There you go.
Something I can hone in on, makes a lot of noise.
Throw that thing down there around the grass edges.
Tim Hancock had some of those last week on the show. He's pulling out the old ones, and he pulled out the devil's horse and said, these things are still deadly and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You talk about that's the one thing for tannic water. What about in Clearwater Lake?
You got,
can they
throw
work
it on brim beds?
Brim beds, just get that commotion and all that. But you mentioned that earlier. Yeah.
You're like the devil's horse, like you have to do some doctoring on it. Don't just throw it right out of the pack. Take the hooks off of it, super glue the hooks in, put you a good coat of clear coat on there. If you don't, that thing won't last long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like to add a feather treble on the back of it.
Of a devil horse.
Yep, feather treble on the back of the devil's horse.
Y'all doing a feather on the back of a Sibyl?
Yeah,
I know Ryan does.
Sometimes they it gives it a different action in the water.
Sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't want it. Sometimes they want a feather, sometimes they don't.
What about walking baits and stuff?
I'll never not throw one on.
I know a lot of people, they're like all about the feathers, and then they're like, don't worry about it. I mean, y'all throwing them on walking baits too?
I know on Lanier, I really fell in love with it. And Kevin I know you tie your own feathers sometimes, don't you?
Sometimes, yeah.
I don't have time to tie feathers or anything, and I really don't want to. On Lanier and Hartwell and Altoona and stuff, the Chartreuse Silver Berkeley Fusion trebles, It just looks herringy.
Herringy.
Especially,
Herringy.
especially,
Is that a word?
especially on a chrome.
He
bait.
knows so many big words. I don't question him no more.
Yeah, especially on a chrome, especially on a chrome bait. But that's. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of a one-trick pony. You know, this time of year, if I ain't first, I'm last.
He used to say emulate a lot, and I thought he was making that damn word up. And I finally looked it up, and it's like legit.
Yeah,
that is a word.
I don't know.
I don't know if herringy is a word or not. I got
close enough.
This is herringy.
Bass Fishing 336. Everyone, please smash that like button. Boom. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Ken Pruitt, Devil Horse near Bluegill Beds. Shh, keep that a secret. Hell, that's a little late tonight.
Sorry about that.
But you know what? But what's interesting is, and that's kind of what we were talking with
Tim.
Tim.
We were going to drop some juice.
Yeah. And again, hey, if you guys had been here before, like old Brian Marcuson was, you got some of that pre-show juice, which doesn't always make it to the show. But that bait's been around a long time, and it still works. How come you don't think people throw it that much anymore?
It's got a stigma about being a Florida bait.
Which is what Kevin said, that him being from Florida.
It has a stigma about it, yeah, being a Florida bait, throwing it in grass.
But don't you?
I think Zale Rowland's I think it's kind of his fault
because
Zale won a bunch of tournaments in the '80s.
Okay.
In Florida, like on St. John's River and stuff, fishing devil horses around grass, Okeechobee. He won a bunch of tournaments, did really well. Larry Nixon did it too.
Is there any other off-the-wall baits you could throw top water to catch fish on our local lakes?
Well, don't throw that daggum. What is that Z-Man thing? I don't like it either.
Hellraiser?
I can't stand
it. Dude,
that
I have freaking hammered him on that.
I know everybody
I'm telling you, dude.
I can't catch
the only problem with it is it does not last long. Not on big bass. It'll break.
Really? I ain't caught none, so I wouldn't know.
I thought the Z-Man was all last tech and everything.
No,
they got some hard baits too.
Some of them
I do got them.
And we bought a bunch of them things.
We did.
We sold out white and chrome.
So nothing else.
So I've got a box at the house, and it's probably got 25 chrome and 25 bone Hellraisers in there. And when it's time to throw that thing, we gonna get it out.
Well, what time is it to throw it?
We should be getting close.
Is it a heat of the summer kind of thing?
I think it's gonna be around about the end of June when they get on that.
And what is it that they're getting on to make that thing effective?
We were throwing it down the seawalls.
Okay.
We were throwing it down the seawalls.
Down the seawalls. There's your
and I'm gonna tell you what, dude. You catch a striper on it, then you catch a 5-pound spot on it.
So it's it brings a little variety to it.
But you get that thing makes a huge ruckus. And now we had the best success with that thing when it was really, really windy.
Okay.
I mean, and
that's so they can't see that goofy looking thing coming through.
It is goofy looking.
Hell yeah,
it is goofy looking, but I don't think I've not seen another lure that has that type of whatever you want to call it. Buzz bait meets.
Who the hell knows what it is?
I don't know, man.
Hell,
it's a walking bait.
Go over and grab one, Danny. If you
it's
got
a walking bait. I will, but I want to say Shop
you got
Life.
them in here?
I do got them. Shop
Go
Life
grab
says,
one.
I am. Hold on a second. I want to call out Shop Life up there. Another North Carolina guy. Hey, listen, we love you, Yankees. No, I'm just kidding. North Carolina. Anything above Dahlonega, Georgia, you're a Yankee. But
Dahlonega, Georgia.
Dahlonega.
Where is Dahlonega?
It's Dahlonega.
Call it Dahlonega.
Marble Hill right there.
Yeah.
Can't follow
you
it.
say I'm bad.
I'll go get one, but I want you to answer Clint Bartlett's fishing right there because we love Clint too, and we ain't got a question of the night for him to win and cheat on. But we'll be doing it again on Thursday. Do y'all notice a bite window real heavy lately? I've noticed dusk is really good, then it drops off completely, then it picks back up around 10. And if you watched our Bill Payne video, you're going to hear something about that. But y'all comment on that, and I'm going to go get him a Hellraiser.
So for me, there's a really, really good bite window first thing in the morning. A lot of that has probably been herring spawn related. I always tell people it's kind of like feeding the cat on your back porch. You feed the cat on your back porch, he shows up every day. Then you quit feeding him, he shows up for a couple of more days. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing as the herring spawn is tapering off. A lot of the success we've had early in the morning has been around herring spawn type places. and then there's kind of like a lull between, I'd say 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock.
Yeah, about 10, 11:30. It's just dead.
Then
go eat a pizza.
Later on in the day, we start catching these really better quality fish over brush out around herring spawn places.
About 4 o'clock. About 4 o'clock was damn good the other day. It was real good about 4 o'clock, and it's like all our tournaments are over by 2 o'clock now. So it's like we're right there. Tournaments are over when we're in that little second dead zone comes in around 1, 2 o'clock.
Pull this thing up. Pull this camera. All right, this is a Hellraiser.
That's the goofiest looking thing.
So first of all, it looks like a little baby gar or something like that, but it's really flat right here. And here's your line tie. And then on the back, it's got this contraption. So and it will sink like hell if you don't start reeling it. So it goes straight down. So what do you classify that as? It's not a spin bait. It's not a buzz bait. It just goes, and it has this action. It sits up in the water like this, and it actually walks the dog kind of. And this thing back here is just going whatever the hell it is.
Rocks back and forth. I would almost classify it as like a backwards buzz bait almost. If you stopped reeling a buzz bait, it would sink.
Yeah, I guess it's
like
weighted. This thing is weighted back here too. This blade has got a weight on the bottom, so all your weight sits on the back. So it sits.
It puts way more vibration out in the water than a buzz bait ever even thought about.
But you like this thing?
I do when it's time to throw it. The only complaint that I would have about it is Z-Man. If anybody from Z-Man is watching, put a bigger wire on the back of this thing.
It's not a cast bait. That wire doesn't go all the way through for sure.
Put a bigger wire on the back of this thing, because what happens is after you catch a couple of big bass, you trying to catch me, ain't you?
Huh?
After you catch a couple of big bass on that.
It reminds me of truck nuts hanging off the back. Like, you ever seen them on on your trailer hitch? Got them big. Yeah, you see them trucks are leaning like this. That's exactly what the hell it looks like. Single bladed whirly bird prop gizmo. Yeah. So, but you're saying it does actually work?
Oh yeah.
Because I've thrown this thing over at Latham a ton where there is a ton of school in action, and them fish are like, that's short bus stuff right there. They ain't touching it.
Short bus.
Devil's horse made a baby with a chatterbait. Okay.
There you go.
Hey, listen, some things ought not to procreate. Some things shouldn't. So, do you throw wake baits much? If so, where and when? We kind of covered that a little bit, but real quick on recapping on that, because we're getting a little later on in the night, and we know that Ryan has a real job now. So, between his blood sugar and bedtime, we got to get him out of here.
I ain't nothing wrong with my blood sugar.
Blood sugar good tonight. He's just tired. So
God,
if you got any more questions, you better throw them out here real quick. So wake baits again.
Spring, spawning fish, post-spawn fish when they're lethargic and won't hit anything else. Gives them a lot of time to spend, crawling that wake bait across the surface real slow. Gives you fish a little more time to come up and get that lure when they're lethargic.
Okay. So perfect. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't really throw wake bait much other than certain time in that certain spring little window I was talking about, throw redfin.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really throw a wake bait.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We forgot. Do you have a 10% discount code or anything this week, like we did last week?
Actually, I'm putting on a Memorial Day sale that I've got some mark rods and stuff. I'm gonna put it on the Facebook Fishing Georgia group page tomorrow.
He's asked that question twice.
Which one is that?
Are you burning the bank at night with spinner bait?
Oh, sorry about that, Carson. Same with jigs.
No, I that black spinner bait, I don't really burn it.
You don't want to burn
it. If you burn a black spinner bait, you're gonna be going home about 10:30.
Because your daggone shoulders.
Because you're gonna be exhausted. And
that ain't really a burning bait.
It's not really a burning bait. We thought, I know we didn't talk about topwater, but wait.
Go ahead.
That black spinner bait. Well, it kind of ties in with the topwater show, because you're gonna be throwing if you fish in night tournaments now, which are getting prevalent, that you're gonna be throwing a topwater, and then if my advice, I'd throw nothing but topwater until the sun goes down, and after the sun goes down, I'd either fish dock lights or throw black spinner bait. that thing is meant. It's a spinner bait, but you're not really like, you got to get in a different mentality when you're throwing it. You're more like doing this little creeping, crawling. You're almost kind of like trying to make it like a crankbait almost, but it's not really a crankbait. You want to maintain some bottom contact.
Yeah, that's what you said.
But it's a spinner bait. And I always throw a grub on the back of it. And I always throw I'm real partial to black and purple on the black spinner bait. And I will throw like a watermelon red, dead ringer, something gnarly, nasty on the back that just creates a bunch of action behind it. It's nasty, really. Just think of something that if it looks like it's going to create a bunch of vibration and disturbance in the water, then that's what I'll throw on the back of the of a black spinner bait.
That's a tough one.
Oh gosh.
Headed to Notley on vacation next week. Any advice? I'd probably go to Blue Ridge. Or actually, all I know is that the fishing has been a little slow for the guys that I have talked to on Notley. A couple of tournaments they've had over there recently, the weights were not. Notley is either on fire or it's dead. So it's kind of like being married. It's kind of like being married. But I tell you what, you could do, Zach, if you'll message me on Facebook, I will talk to Rob Robleski and a couple others. Next, Rob's going to be here from the NPFL. Him and Will Harkins and a couple other the NPFL pros are going to be in here Thursday night, recapping Hartwell, and we're going to talk Lake Hartwell a little bit and how that relates to us. So you might can even come back Thursday and ask that question again. But I'll try to get Rob because he fishes Notley a lot. Do you ever throw any other color beside black or purple?
I throw black and purple through July, and then August and September I throw black and red.
Any reason why?
I think it has a lot to do with crawfish.
Okay.
August and September. I think you're going to start. I think their black spinnerbait starts emulating crawfish.
There's that
There's
word.
your word for
There's
you.
that word.
Emulating. I think it does more black and red in August and September, especially on those full moon nights. But
makes sense.
I don't know. I'm gonna say last thing, and then I'm pretty much about done, I guess, for tonight. But advice for throwing top waters up here in North Georgia. If it's low light conditions early in the morning, I like to throw bone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just for if you guys are building out a tackle box or wanting a place to start. I throw bone. Start with bone, and then as the sun comes out, I'll switch over to chrome. And I pretty much kind of keep it there in terms of the plugs. And then if you go shallow, then when the sun comes up, I'm pretty much only going to be skipping underneath every dock and every shady patch that I can find. That's pretty much the best thing. And the last little piece of advice that I can give you from my own personal experience is don't settle. Don't settle. If this time of the year is the time of the year where for the next couple of months, where on a herring lake specifically, if you want to get heavy in a hurry or you want to catch a bunch of fish, top water is the way to go. Nothing against a drop shot or anything like that, because they have their places and flukes and stuff like that. But it don't take a whole lot of, it takes a lot of effort, but it don't take a whole lot of effort at the same time. Throw a couple times and go. Don't sit there and play with them, especially if you have a scope. If they don't react to anything at all, I personally ain't gonna fool with them.
Yeah,
I'm not in the boat with Kevin. I'm not a guide where I need the 400-pound monkeys on my back. Where if my client isn't catching fish, that the grip around my neck starts getting tighter, like it probably sometimes might can to you when he's got in his situation. But I just keep sticking and moving. And if you really want to get serious about throwing top water on lakes like Lanier and Allatoona, I know it's going to suck, and I know we want to fish, but you're going to have to take a day if you work for a living. you're going to have to take a day where you pick a Saturday or a Sunday, and you're just going to have to go out and graph. You're just going to have to go look at your map, use your mapping, go out and find a place, drop scope, use side skin, whatever it may be, whatever you feel like doing, how you want to do it is fine, and find stuff. You have got to find. You cannot have 5 places. If you have 5 places, you're in trouble.
You're about 70
got
short.
to have about, exactly. You're about 70 or 80 short. And you've got, it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down all day long. And you will sleep really good that night. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be rewarding. And like I said, it can be like Ricky Bobby. You can either be first or you'll end up last. It just depends upon the situation.
You just swinging for the fence.
Yeah.
I got a question for you to end the show. Brad Silvers, what about crankbait at night as far as colors? I know a lot of guys will throw the deep divers with a black back, sometimes with a dark blue sides or a red side. Those are kind of popular. Basically, you're kind of doing the same thing with the spinner baits. Not much
same
difference.
colors as your spinner baits: blacks, dark blues, contrasting colors.
Yeah.
Dark purple.
Yeah. Here's the question I wanted for you because I remember it and I didn't ask it. Somebody was saying if you go over a brush pile and they're not hitting the top water and then you burn it with a Seville and they come up and they don't commit to that, can you go after them with a jerk bait next? Like you're going down in the water column. Would that be a good choice?
You could, but maybe leave them fish that you've already showed lures to and go find another group.
Don't waste
You've
your
done
time.
educated them fish.
Yeah,
Give them
fish,
an hour
them
or two.
fish already know that you're there. Maybe put that, if it's a brush pile that you think's got some really good fish on it, maybe put that brush pile in your milk run and go back 5 or 6 times during the day and hit it again. Go hit it first thing in the morning. Go hit it mid-morning. Go hit it at lunchtime. Go hit it during a major feeding time. That's a whole nother rabbit hole you can get down as far as, how to go about doing that stuff. But, like what Ryan was talking about right now, every one of my trips, I've been telling my clients, hey, go out and enjoy your day of fishing. If you're going to go out for 8 hours and fish, go out, enjoy your fishing time, but take a couple of hours, even if it's only 30 minutes, take that time to go and look for offshore structure and cover, because that's what's coming next. That's, it's not going to be long. You're not going to be catching fish up around the herring holes anymore as shallow as what we've been doing. They're going to get out. They're going to get offshore. Eventually you'll have some fish get channel swing points, channel swing humps the further we get into summer. But, if you're not on the game with, having some brush piles or some places to go fish offshore, you're really going to struggle. Going to struggle.
Makes sense.
I've been doing a lot of that too on people's boats here lately, is taking them and, showing them how to use their stuff. What do brush piles look like? What does this offshore cover look like? How to find it most efficiently with what they have on their boat. So
makes sense. You gotta be ready for that next step.
Yep. Stay in front of your fish.
Yeah. So again, guys, so first of all, we're about ready to call it night, but I want to thank both of these guys. The contact information, I will put it in the description of this video tomorrow when I come in. I'll have all of Kevin's stuff in the description. So you can check it out there because he don't want you calling him tonight. So, but I want to thank you two guys because both of you guys, again, we had a kayak episode planned. Emergencies and lives happen, but you two guys stepped up. So Kevin, you're out, I appreciate you doing that. And Ryan, good to seeing you back up here. Good to see you back on the camera. Both of you guys do have a lot of good information. And again, you guys out there in the comment section, y'all run the shows, the guests, and it's the comment section. So I want to thank
appreciate everybody being here tonight.
Absolutely. It was a good show. And
Kevin,
again,
give you contact one more time.
Yeah, shout it out real quick. But if you forget it, I'll have it in the description.
You can reach me by cell phone, call or text 678-459-8419. You can email me, Kevin@lipstickerfishing.com, or you can hit me up on Facebook. Either look for my business page, Lipsticker Fishing, message me that way, or you can message me, Kevin Underwood, on Facebook Messenger.
Gotcha. So, Frank Arnold, thanks from North Carolina. Hey, again, we love you Yankees up there. So we appreciate you guys. Thursday night, Will Harkins, Robert Blesky, and probably 2 more of the NPFL pros that just fished the tournament on Hartwell will be here. A couple of them we're going to pipe in, but Rob and Will Harkins are going to be here. We're going to go over Hartwell, how it relates to this area. And Hartwell didn't fish very good. So them guys, they had to put in the work. So hopefully we can learn some more on Thursday night. But again, you guys, hey, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Hope you learned something. And again, you two guys, thank you very much, Blake, for running the camera, and all you guys in the comment section. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on Thursday.